Your teenage child has issues. And you don't even really know what to do. You went maybe already to a therapist who starts talking about medication and stuff like that. But something is telling you like, that's not the path. But hey, we've all been teenagers. And all teenagers, without exception, had a tough period in their lives. They all went through shit because that's what being a teenager is. Transformation. It's like the caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. That is a very painful transformation. So in this video I will be addressing this. I will be sharing how a teenage child can be helped. And I will also be talking about how you as an adult can also heal certain wounds that are very much linked to the teenage period. The teenage period being the period of hormones, sexuality starting to come up and trying to express itself. So I always record this introduction after having recorded the video, because I never know how the video is going, what's coming up, because I'm channeling, it's just coming through. And so I need to think what kind of title I'm going to put on this video, so, because it's two subjects that are very connected. I would say, get comfortable and listen to what I have to share, because both your teenage child and you can benefit from this. Like, subscribe, and share. Hi, welcome new video of mine. Today's video I want to share my insight on teenagers who are closed, who don't talk to their parents, and even some are being diagnosed with depression and need to be heavily medicated with a lot of chemical crap that will numb them. So, in recent weeks, and actually for the last 2 years also, but in recent weeks it came to my attention again and more clearly by some parents talking to me about the teenage children. And the parents are worried. The parents are worried, and sometimes they're so worried they take their children into therapy. And then if you have the greatest luck in the world, you end up with some psycho, they call themselves therapists, who says the child is depressed and needs some antidepressant medicine. Some heavy stuff that will literally numb the person. It does this to adults, but also to children. And oftentimes they become dependent on it. It's not maybe like a physical addiction, but more like a mental addiction. And why does it become an addiction? Because The problem is not being resolved, it's just numbing. Just like all these people who try to drink away their problems, or sniff it away, or smoke it away. A lot of people started smoking not just because it was cool, but because they had stress and it would help alleviate the stress, but then they create a dependency. But it's just an addiction in the end because it's not helping to reduce stress. They just smoke because at least they will not feel the stress of not smoking, of the lack of nicotine. And nowadays you have this vaping shit. And even though scientists paid by the tobacco industry and the vaping industry are saying it's healthier than smoking, and this could be true for just the vaping part, the basic stuff, all the additives for all the smells and tastes, they are very chemical and very poisonous. So in the end, again, you're poisoning yourself. And you're not solving any problems, by the way. So looking at people who become alcoholic or drug addicts, is that something you want to do to your teenage child? Well, the answer from the two parents I talked to recently was no. No fucking way. But what to do then? Well, it all starts by looking back at your own youth. You probably didn't have therapy yourself in your youth. You probably didn't get any antidepressants prescribed. But you were a mess when you were a teenager. You were lost. You wanted to belong to the group of the cool kids. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Maybe you were bullied. You didn't feel you belonged here in this world. Didn't feel comfortable. You may have contemplated committing suicide. I know I did. And I'm not the only one. And it took you till your 20s to maybe start to settle down a bit. And maybe up to your 30s, 40s, or even 50s before you finally started to feel some inner peace. Gained some self-confidence. And started to surround you with people you feel really comfortable with. And what I said to one of the parents was, if your teenage child is not lost, then there's something really wrong with him. Because as teenager, you're transforming, you have all the hormones. The hormones alone will fuck you up. That's normal. That's being a teenager. It's also transformation. It's a detachment from the parents, trying to find your own identity, discovering yourself while still discovering the world. And just look around you. What kind of world are we living in? I didn't want to have children for most of my life because I was like, I don't want to put a child in this fucked up world. That's child abuse. To make a child and say, okay, I'm going to put a child in this total shithole. I mean, if you follow the news, if you follow the mainstream media, then we live in the worst times ever. Nuclear war is about to break out. World War III, famine, all kinds of shortages. If you have been for a while on a spiritual path, then you may be more confident about all this not really affecting your life. So become a bit calmer. But you have lost your innocence. And a child is born with innocence. So the process of losing the innocence, that's painful. And some of us are lucky enough to gain back some of that innocence at a later age. You often see it with the elderly when they get really old. They don't care anymore about what other people may think or look at them or say about them. They don't give a fuck. I heard a saying, I don't remember exactly how it went, but it was like, as a teenager, you really care a lot about how you look. And once you're really old, the only thing you care about is, are you comfortable or not? Because then you actually have learned that the only thing that matters is how you feel on the inside, not what people think. Everyone has an opinion. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. So your teenage children are going through tough times. But what do they need? They need to be heard. To be heard by somebody who will not judge them. Preferably somebody who understands them. Who remembers his own youth. But not just that. Somebody who has healed many, not all, but many of the wounds he was experiencing during that period. Because only then you can talk about what happened, how you experienced it, how it affected you from your heart. Not from the mind, not some theoretical bullshit like the psychos do. And generally the psychos are only asking questions. No. What a teenager needs is hope. Hope that things will change, will get better. Maybe understanding, or at least getting a seed planted, saying that everything happens for a good reason, even if you are unable to see the reason. Yet, it is happening for a good reason. So trust the process. One thing I did few years ago, I don't remember exactly when, but was to go back in time. No, not with the fancy time machine. Actually, mine is fancier. I don't need to step into anything. I just go inwards. And then I can travel in time. So travel back to 7-year-old me. And I sat down on the bed in that room, and sat down next to me. Put my arm around his shoulders and said, everything will be okay. You will be okay. And now I'm going to share with you all the beautiful things that I have already lived and that you will be experiencing. One of my dreams then was to become a pilot. But I also quickly realized a few years later, so mid-teens, that it's a boring job. It's basically bus driver in the air. Computers are doing everything and you're just sitting and observing. I mean, that's when you have a normal flight, not when there's a crisis. But I told little Lotfi that one day I did pilot myself an airplane. There were 4 of us sitting in it, and I was flying it. It was amazing. So that was off my bucket list. I did fly an airplane. And then I shared how I had some cool jobs, drove a cool car at some point, BMW 530D station wagon, full options, it was amazing. Roof opening, heated seats, amazing air conditioning, so comfortable that you could fall asleep while driving. You would not feel if you were speeding 150 an hour on a highway, not on regular roads, of course. Things that a child finds cool. Oh, that I even was working for the airport police. A child. I was also impressed by police. So I did that too. The uniform, and did a lot of cool things at the airport. Come on, paradise. 2 of my dreams coming together, which was super cool at the time. That I had friends, more than one. They were real friends. Friends who understood me, who accepted me the way I am. So coming back to your teenage child, or maybe you're a teenager yourself and you're watching this. We all go through this period. And in the end, we all come out of it, one way or the other. And it is with some conscious support, some loving support, that we can come out of it more easily. The support I had was talking with my mom till a certain age. Now my hormones were really getting in the way. I started talking less with her, but then I had older cousins with whom I could talk. Not often, but once or twice a year I would have a real good talk. And that was helping, that was soothing. That was helping to heal some wounds, at least partially, or for a period of time. So I also decided to offer my services to help teenagers. Because they may not start talking to me if they don't know me. But if I start to share what I experienced, how I felt, and how I resolved many of these issues, some during my youth already, some later, then first of all they will realize they're not the only ones, but also realize that there's a way out. And not just out, but a way to really feel good. Because I'm the living example. So I will be sharing literally how I felt, what happened to me, how I initially reacted to it, but also how I see it now. So in the process, they will also mature. They will still be teenagers, but they will learn to deal with things in a way that makes it easier to process, to handle, that will lighten up things for them. And it's already for several years that I feel that I want to help teenagers. My first thought, and I already have been having several talks about this with some people working on this, trying to get some legislation through and to talk with schools. First thing I thought of doing is to educate teenagers on intimacy and sexuality. Telling boys that being the cool guy is not being the fucker, but it's being a gentleman, the listener. There is nothing wrong with having sexual desires, which applies for both boys and girls. But it is what you do with them that the opposite sex is not just a sex object to fulfill a need. I would tell girls that it's important to set your boundaries. And you can say no at any moment. And both things I would say to both, but I'm just pointing out two very important aspects. Because nowadays, guys need to be cool, need to feel cool. So that means the more you fuck, the more women you fuck, the cooler you are. And for girls, the more men you've been fucked by, the biggest slut you are. That's total crap. And when men say that, they're actually stupid. Because that's how you get less women to have sex with. So basically, you're killing your own pool that you're trying to fish in. But the most important thing I want to teach them is that it's not about the sexual act, it's about connection. In my late teens, in the last year of secondary school, my best friend then was a girl. We had grown very close as friends. But there was more going on, but we didn't realize it. I believe she realized it. I realized only years later. But it was only after knowing each other for 3 years and being close for 3 years, being able to talk about everything. Talking from the heart. It's only then that she tried to have sex with me. But I didn't know. I didn't show. I didn't show up. I said no to the meeting she wanted to have. I said no for practical reasons. I was in an impasse. I could not say yes at that moment. And she was really upset about that. But it was only much later that I realized that she was so upset, which I didn't understand at the time, because of that bond we had built up in 3 years' time. That was with me that she wanted to have her first time. I was not ready for it, to be honest. I'm not sure her first time would have been nice, because I didn't really know much. But that was, for her, the right time to do something. And because of my experiences and the sex addiction that I had during a big part of my life, I have seen both sides. And by the way, most men and a lot of women have a sex addiction. It doesn't mean they act on it, but it is an addiction, just like smoking. And that's why they rarely or never make love. It's about the act, it's about fulfilling a need. It's literally just like lighting that cigarette and taking them. But as soon as you've passed that first moment, it becomes like, I need more, need more, need more. And then cigarette is finished, I need another one. So I know the subject has changed a bit in this video now. But it all starts in the teenage years, Wouldn't you have wanted, looking back now, have had this wisdom about love, connection, intimacy? Wouldn't that have made things easier and nicer? Your first time? Wouldn't it have been a much better experience? I mean, I was able to give a woman a very beautiful first time. It was a colleague who came to me. Yeah, we were not colleagues anymore, it was an ex-colleague, and we're now early 20s. And one night, I spent the night at her place, sleeping on a mattress on the floor, and she jumped me that night, kissing me, hugging me, and nothing happened then, but she told me, and I wasn't prepared, and I think I had to go to work or something like that, so I left in the morning a bit shocked that this very polite and well-behaved, very silent girl jumped me in my sleep. And so I decided we would do it on the beach during sunset. So I went to one of my friends and I borrowed a sleeping bag. And he was like, "Oh, don't make any stains later." Because he was always like that. I mean, come on, you can watch the fucking thing. And we went to the beach town. We made a long walk on the beach, and in the end we went up to the dunes, far away from any people. And on the first dune, they were like really high, like 2-3 stories high. We laid, and slowly went into the sleeping bag. The sun was going down. And we kissed, we hugged, and we didn't do too much. I was very careful. And I went in eventually, but didn't do much. But that was not the point. The point was, I wanted her to have a beautiful experience. Not a painful one, no, a beautiful, sensual experience. After that, when we went home, we went at it. But at first moment, at a certain moment I just stopped because I felt there was tension and she was still a bit scared, but she wanted me inside, so yeah, I went inside, but we stopped. At a certain moment, like, no, stop here. I just hugged her, kissed her, and we laid. And maybe half an hour later, we went back on the beach. I was walking and she was dancing. That's an image I cannot forget. She was dancing, she was so happy. And that is one of the reasons why I do what I do. why I work with men and women on healing sexual trauma. Why I want to work with teenagers on this topic. Because they will have sex. We cannot prevent that as parents. But what we can do is help them have a beautiful experience. Help them being conscious about what they're about to do. So they do it safely, not just safety as using a condom, but doing it with the person they feel safe with. Having circumstances, an environment that is safe. No rush, taking your time, stopping when it's painful, which is very common, and it's okay. And if you're an adult and you already went through hell, you've experienced sexual abuse in whatever shape or form, it is possible to experience again, for the first time, real lovemaking. You can gain back your innocence. I did. And others did too. So maybe you clicked on this video because you have a teenage child with issues. Basically a teenager being a teenager. Maybe you want me to help him or her. Maybe you want me to help you. Or both of you. Whatever it is. Feel free to contact me. You can always ask me questions. You can have a talk just to see if we can work in one way or another. The most important thing is there is always hope. It took me 40 plus years. But nowadays things are going so much faster. So whatever age you are at, this can be resolved. And you don't need to wait till you're in your late 40s. I hope this video helped you. See you in the next one. Have a wonderful day. Like, subscribe, and share.